Hey, John Morey here, and today I'm going to do a digital painting of rock icon Dave Grohl.
Okay, well, if you get a chance, like and subscribe, and let's get this started. So I'm going to do a quick outline, focusing on the proportions of his face and make sure everything is in proportion. Now, I've always thought of Dave Grohl as an interesting personality, and so I'm excited to draw his portrait here. So after the outline, I come in with just a hard brush without worrying about an opacity or pressure opacity or anything like that, and just come in with a hard brush and start to outline and define where are my shadow areas going to be and where are my lighter areas going to be, and work out from there. So just rough it in, not worrying too much about anything else besides defining areas. Then I come back in and focus on the darker areas, define those a little bit more, and then I'll come back in focusing on the lighter areas, but the hair especially, the shadows underneath the face, the eyeballs and the nostrils, all the really dark areas. Define those within this shadow area that I've already defined. I think this is going to be really interesting because of all this, the hair that he has. I want to make sure it looks like hair, but I don't want to get in there with too much detail and draw every single hair. Sometimes in the past I've done that, and it frankly just takes too long, and it looks cool in the end, but it's not as artistic, and it's just basically, in my opinion, just copying a photo. And I'm going to push myself a little bit more to get some implied detail rather than drawing every single detail. And it's a bit challenging sometimes, but you know, it's really satisfying when you can come up with those implied details that look real but really are very loose, right? So after I've done all the shadows and define that, I come in and I'm gonna add a little bit more detail, focusing on the eye. One of the things that I've noticed with eyes is that people really struggle with sometimes is making them too white, the whites of the eyes too white, because most of the time they're just in shadow and they're really quite dark compared to the rest of anything else that's white, except for the bright white highlight that's on the eye. So I want to make sure and make the whites of the eyes dark enough so that it doesn't look like glowing eyes. Now I sample. I like to do a hard brush, a hard edged brush, and then sample the area between the lighter and the darker areas and create a middle area where I can blend it in. So I sample, blend. Getting some of these highlights or the shadows, some of these shadows with the hairline and under the hair, where it touches the skin is really quite warm. And I want to make sure that I want to get that warmth so it doesn't look like a dead robot. Especially around these shadows of this eye, this crease in his eye, it gets really quite dark. So the mustache, when I'm trying to get implied detail, a mustache and beard, there's areas where you can see the skin coming through. There's areas that that you can't, where it's mostly just hair. And so it's going to be a lot of getting the in-between skin tone, in between beard, hair tone, and just blending it and not having sharp edges at this point. Same with the eyebrows, making sure it's blended into the skin, not a sharp eyebrow edge, but implying that there's a transition between no hair and lots of hair. And then as I get towards the center, there's a little bit more hair and it's less skin showing through, and so I make that transition to imply that detail. And I'll come back in and add a little bit more detail after, but there's a little bit of a cast shadow underneath his mustache. And then around his lips, I gotta warm that up, blend it into the mustache, and make it nice and warm, almost red, dark red, to get those lips and the shadow to be really warm and lifelike. And with the lips, it's, there's a curvature to the lips, and the light hits it in different ways. And so in the middle, it's very light. And as it goes to the outside of the lips, there's a shadow that's being cast. So working on that. Working on this implied detail where it's transitioning from skin to hair. Showing some of that skin coming through. And in real life, the hairs are going to be much thinner, but I'm deliberately choosing not to make them super thin at this point. But just giving that implied detail. Now, underneath on the chin here, same type of thing. I'm going to come in and blend it between the skin and the hair to give it that, to imply that there's that transition. There's light on his chin that's really making it bright. His chin a lot lighter than the surrounding areas. So I'm going to lighten that up. I'm going to add some detail. Lips are very textured, and so I want to add some implied texture there, adding some details. With hair, there's just a lot of variations. There's warms and cools, lights and darks, and it's not just one color. So I'm coming in underneath and adding a little bit of implying the skin's coming through that hair first, and then I'll go over the top with more hair color, softening the lines here around the beard. And I really enjoy working quickly like this and not getting caught up in too much of the detail. It's fun to see it come together a little bit faster that way. Under the chin here, there's a bit of cast shadow, so I want to blend that a little bit with his beard because there's not a clear edge, so I want to blend that edge into the shadow underneath. Working on also the cooling some of this skin on his neck down just a little bit and blending it into the shadows. And I'm really not using a very, it's still a pretty hard-edged brush, but I'm feathering it by sampling the edges and getting the in-between shades. Now with the hair, I start off making sure I don't want to get too dark and too light, so I want to give a good in between value where I can come back over the top and add those darker darks and lighter lights with the hair. Just get that undervalue and tone and hue. Get that pretty close. And then I'll come back over the top. I'm going to start working on the details of the light areas on the hair here and start to define where this hair curls and what shape it has. Define the form of it. Towards the bottom here on the right, it starts to get pretty curly and it's a little bit straighter towards the top. So got to define that a little bit here with the lights, adding lights and darks, the variation in the hair. That's what I love painting about hair is just the variation and you know, you could either get really detailed or you can get very loose with hair and still make it look like hair, which is pretty cool. So same thing on the left here. Start to find where it curves and curls, where the light areas are, where the dark areas are, adding cooler colors and warmer colors. Just some fun variations. This light is great. Certain hair is great at reflecting light and different elements in the room, different elements on the face. It's reflecting. And so it's just a lot of different colors. And I'm just gonna fade it into the shirt here, not have a clean defined edge, but just fade the hair away. The hair, I'm adding some more implied detail. Again, I'm not gonna draw every single pore and all the shadows of the pores. I'm just gonna take a nice brush here, a oil painting brush that has some texture to it, and I'm just gonna draw in some texture to imply some of those pores and imperfections in the skin. I don't want it to make it look too much like a sculpted clay or porcelain. I want to add that texture in there to really make it feel like skin. There's so many imperfections in skin, and to give it a nice personality. And so I'm coming in with different colors, different shades, values, adding lighter where the light hits. I think that's looking good. Some good implied detail. Now, one thing that I should have done is I should have come in here and done the background first, because I'm kind of experimenting here. Do I want a darker background in there? But I painted it with a light background, and so as I put a dark background in the background, it just looks like a paper cutout because I was using a white background as a reference. So I toned back the background color a little bit more so it's not white, but it still looks natural now. Lastly, I'm just going to finish it off by darkening a little bit of this hair. It was a little bit too light, so I'm going to darken it a little bit, and then we're going to call it a painting. So thank you for watching, and when you get a chance, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.